Hey, it's Jaron Gulino, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Antita, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers, like our Facebook page, or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Jaron Gulino
of Tantric,
Lynch Mob,
Heaven's Edge,
and The Life Project.
Yeah, busy guy, man.
Yeah.
What we know right now, what he's promoting is anticipation for the new Lynch Mob album and the new Heaven's Edge album coming out, I believe, in 2023, correct?
Yeah.
And touring all the time with all these bands.
That's I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, so let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Jaron, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Jaron, thanks for joining us tonight.
Eric and Jeff, thanks for having me.
Well, once again, sorry for kind of catching you kind of so helter-skelter here. So you're just getting off tour and heading home. I guess maybe this is the perfect time to kind of catch up with things with you. So this past year, you joined forces with George Lynch and the Lynch Mob as the touring bass player. Can you talk a little bit more about your joining forces with George Lynch?
Sure, yeah. It actually came about when George was out doing his band, The Electric Freedom. It's when he was taking a break from doing Lynch Mob for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was filling in for a buddy of mine, Rob DeLuca, who also plays with UFO and Spread Eagle and Sebastian Bach.
Mm-hmm.
And, just gelled with the guys, and then kind of through that, George kind of decided, he wanted to do an actual band again, instead of having rotating members, in and out, which he was doing with the Electric Freedom. He wanted to bring back Lynch Mob and do a band, and pretty much, it was a no-brainer for me, and got involved with that. So it's Jimmy DeAnda, George, myself, and Gabriel Colon from Puerto Rico on vocals.
Mm.
And, we've done quite a few shows here in the second half of the year, and we're ramping up for a very busy 2023.
Wow. Well, I believe the Lynch Mob hasn't released any new material since 2017's The Brotherhood album. What are the plans, or what plans does George have as far as getting in the studio, writing and recording new music?
George has been in the studio, and we plan to have a new Lynch Mob record out by the first half of the year, maybe late summer next year. It's kind of being tracked as we speak. And I can tell you from what I've heard, it's a nice blend of the early, Wicked Sensation and the self-titled album with all the new modern stuff that he's been doing with the Brotherhood and the last few albums. So I think fans are really going to love it. And being a fan myself, first and foremost, I can say it's definitely some of the coolest stuff that I've heard from him in a while as far as Lynch Mob material goes.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Lynch Mob's had a few different singers. Can you talk a little bit about your current one and working with him?
Sure. Yeah, Gabriel, younger guy in his 30s, kind of an unknown that's kind of come onto the scene here in the last decade, half a decade. And, he ranges from California at the moment, but he's of Puerto Rican descent. And he's got the pipes, man. He's got the soul, that kind of Only Logan vibe thing happening, but he's also got those crazy high notes, kind of like the old school Doc and stuff. So, when we're doing that material, he's not sitting out on any of those high notes, but he still brings that feel. So I think if fans can accept that, it's not the original lineup or whatever you want to call it, they're going to be in for a real treat, man. It's a powerhouse band for sure.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I guess when it comes to touring methodology, when it comes to Lynch Mob, where's George's mind space at as far as, I know that you guys were doing some touring with Dokken. As far as Lynch Mob being the headliner, how did he schematically put the tour together?
It's tough to say because he's been doing these dates with Dokken where he's been doing the encore for the last few years here, and there's still some more to come next year. So pretty much we base a lot of our routing around those. So where there's the Lynch Mob Dokken shows, maybe 1 or 2 days in a week, we'll fill in some of those other days around it with some headlining stuff. So that way Lynch Mob can be doing some Dokken stuff and the Lynch Mob material, and then when we do the Dokken shows, obviously we'll stick to the Lynch Mob era stuff, and George will come out and play with Don and do some of the hits there for the encore.
Oh, so cool.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to change gears on you here. I want to kind of touch base with you on Heaven's Edge. Now, how long have you been working with Mark Evans?
As far as in the band, I joined at the end of 2019, kind of going into 2020. And when I say the end, I'm talking tail end. I probably went down there to jam with them maybe November, December of 19, I want to say. Mm-hmm. So, it's been a blast, man, but I've known Mark for a long time. And, it was only, I think, a matter of time until we kind of linked up for something. And, I've always been a big fan of the band, and to be asked, it's kind of another no-brainer, legends from in my area, and I'm happy to fill the bass duties for the late great Gigi. So, it's just kind of taken shape. We just finished an album. We literally got the last song mixed today, so hopefully we'll have the masters and that all sealed up here in the next couple of weeks. And that one's looking to come out, I think, next year as well on Frontier Records. So, it's a lot of moving parts, man. A lot of these bands are chomping at the bit to get new material out and to get on the road. So now it's just a juggling act.
With COVID-19 messing everything up for, as long as it did, 2 years we're talking here. I guess, when it comes to creativity in the studio, did you feel as though for yourself, the musician that you are, did you feel like it brought in a new creativity or renaissance in your style of play or songwriting or whatever you want to call it? Do you feel like you were reinvigorated by COVID-19?
In certain ways, I feel like I wanted to come out of COVID with more music written, whether it was just for myself or, whatever for any of the bands. But, being a bass player, when I get albums to do or things to work on, a lot of it's a lot of ideas that are already there, and then I'm kind of coloring in, the bass on it. But I spent a lot of that time over COVID trying things that I don't normally do. I'm primarily a bass player that plays with a pick. And during COVID, I was like, I would really like to be good at playing with my fingers as well. I can do it, but I wasn't, as good as I was with a pick. And I kind of just made it a point to do it more. And now I'm glad I did, because when I got the Lynch gig, a lot of the songs, just cater to a little bit of finger playing, over pick playing. So it's really helped me. And I find that approach, playing with your fingers, actually lets my brain kind of come up with some different things. It's a whole different perspective. So COVID was very helpful in that respect. Excuse me. But, in terms of the creativity, we did a tantric record during COVID. I did a record with a band called Delacoma during COVID. So it opened up more time to get things done that were kind of on my, queue, on the list there to get done. But, we still hit it pretty hard with the touring with Tantric during COVID. So, as much time as it had opened up, whether it was, 2 months or 3 months, however long it was, I still felt like it wasn't enough. And now coming, off of this tour here this year, I finally have like a month and a half off from the road. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but I've been with Tantric for 5.5 years, and it's the longest break we've had aside from COVID. And I'm excited to change gears a little bit and work on some different things and, again, recharge and see where it takes me.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, nice. When you're on tour, can you talk a little bit about your bass rig and what you play, and how many do you take with you on tour?
Sure. Yeah, it depends on the gig. With Tantric, I'll usually bring out one bass with me, and if they're fly dates or something simple, I'll bring my little orange amps, a little Travel Terror bass head that I have. It's like the perfect little lunchbox size to fly with. And, hopefully the venues have a nice bass cabinet or something I can plug into. But when I'm doing things, whether it's a bigger tour or the Life Project or Out with George, whatever it is, I like to have my own rig entirely. I'll bring 2 Ampeg cabinets. I'll bring my Ampeg tube head, the Ampeg SVT2 Pro. I'll bring out the big boy orange or the all tube head that they make. And, it's nice, but along with all that comes the setup to tear down, the loading of the trailer, bringing a trailer, having a vehicle, all the things that, go along with touring, but aren't always necessary to get the job done. So I find myself fortunate when I am able to bring some of these things out. And, some of those other gigs, they call for 2 basses. When I do Lynch Mob, I bring a second Fender P bass out with me that's in B tuning, which is primarily used mostly as if it was a 5-string, but it's just a little different. So I got to carry 2 on my back. I just actually lugged them home today, so that's why I was a little nervous about getting on the phone with you guys, juggling all the stuff. But, I like to be prepared, maybe have a backup bass. I think the most I've ever really brought out with me was 3 at a time, just for the sake of having a backup or different tunings and whatnot. But, I could pretty much usually get away with having 1. Having 2, if there's a different tuning thing, is essential. But I like to have the rig. I like to be the guy at the end of the night to want to load the trailer. That way I know my gear is safe. It's in there. Even if we have a tech or somebody to help, stagehand, whatever it is, I still like to be a part of that process. I look at it as almost like a free workout. It's like loading all this heavy stuff. I'm like, all right, I got my gym session in for the day. But, it's all part of playing, man. It's like the gear is exciting, the playing's exciting, being on stage is exciting. I kind of just love every aspect of it.
When you talk about loading and unloading, doing it yourself, make sure your stuff is all protected and secure. We've talked to many of artists that have had a lot of equipment stolen. Amir Darak told us a story about one of his custom double neck guitars was stolen on the road. As far as you guys, have you been fortunate enough not to lose too much equipment while you've been on the road, or have you lost some along the way?
Knock on wood, I have not lost any gear. I am also the guy that will dig through the trailer at the end of the night and bring my bass into the hotel room every single night like it's my child.
Yeah.
But, I've been lucky. But, I think a lot of that comes with being smart, parking in a safe place, maybe not staying at a shady hotel, even with a budget. It's like, is it worth it? I don't think so. Just making sure the locks are tight and everything is, kind of sealed up. People take a lot of things for granted when they're out on the road. They just think there's something's in a trailer and out of sight, that people aren't out there prowling. And I think if you're one step ahead mentally, you can kind of avoid a lot of that.
When it comes to your bass collection, how many do you own?
It's ever changing. At the moment, I have don't know, 7 or 8. I kind of get a bunch, and then I sell them, and I hold on to my nice Fenders that I've played forever, and those never seem to really go anywhere. But I've been fortunate enough to have a couple endorsements over the years, and I'll get some new cool stuff, and I'll take it out on tour and play it. And there's nothing wrong with it, but sometimes certain things just feel better in your hands, and I find myself always going back to my old classic Fender P basses. And so I've slimmed down a little bit. I've got a couple, special ones in storage, but I pretty much bring out the stuff that I love the most, and I don't think I could be on stage playing something that I didn't really, love having in my hands.
Oh, for sure.
Nice.
For sure.
Who are some of your bass player influences?
Oh man, I get asked this all the time. It's really hard. I'll just go up and say Geezer Butler because, he's just a master, and I feel like when you listen to Sabbath or anything that he's a part of, his years in Ozzy, whatever, he's very versatile. He's defined a genre in a way, in the early years, but then you listen to some of the later stuff, and it's very melodic and beautiful, and maybe out of the ordinary from what you would expect from a bass player. So I would say basically he's my biggest influence. But growing up, I was always into guitar. I only pretty much listened to guitar players. I never cared what any of the lyrics ever were. I'm like, all right, the singer's okay, cool, but the guitar player rips, I'll make an exception. So it wasn't until more of the recent years that I really started digging into actual listening to bass. And some of the early guys, man, Glenn Hughes obviously is amazing, and it's really hard to pick because I'm a younger guy that comes from an older generation. So as much as I want to say all these guys that are out there now killing it, it's like I kind of just listen to old stuff. So I'm going with the older guys. So I love Deep Purple, I love Sabbath. So anything from that era is really up my alley.
Oh, so cool.
Nice.
As far as effects go, are you a pedals guy, or do you just plug it into the amp and just play straight through, or how does it work for you?
I'm pretty minimal. The most I ever really use is like a Sans amp or an Ampeg Scrambler, just to give a little drive or a little extra oomph. But aside from that, sometimes I'll use a splitter, so I can run multiple heads, but I don't really know that counts as the pedal. But, effects, I try to keep it minimal because, bass is pretty simple. I guess depending on what kind of band you're playing, it could go either way. But I've been a firm believer of a classic sound, so whether that's a classic 70s Ampeg, some people call it stoner rock sound. I just like it big and fat and clear enough to hear the notes.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Wanted to bring this back to Heaven's Edge. One more question before we move on here. Like a heritage act like Heaven's Edge, what is their approach to touring? Are they more of like the weekend warrior flyout date? Is that where they're at in their careers right now, I guess?
I would say not even that. In the time that I've been in the band, I think the most shows we've done in a year is like 2 or 3 tops. Just because, everybody's kind of, out of the game in terms of, a full-time touring thing or trying to make money with the band. Everybody's older. They have lives. They have kids, grandkids, jobs. We try to, I say we, but they try and stick to some of the more high-profile gigs, whether it's the cruises or the M3 Rock Festival, things that cater to the genre. And I'm okay with that. I got a lot going on, and I love playing with the guys, and I would love to do it more as well. But at some point, you run out of days on the calendar, and I'm happy with the amount of work that we do. But, hopefully with this new record coming out that opens the door to a few more things. Next year, it looks like we'll have quite a few shows. We got a hometown Philly show in January. Talks of M3 happening again next year. We have a German date for a festival over there in September. And, we'll kind of see where it goes. I think after coming off of a little studio session and doing an album, the guys are kind of re-amped up and, ready to play.
Awesome.
So talk a little bit about that, juggling all the different acts in here, and how does that work for you? Do you just like go with the flow? Hey, tell me what time to be there, or do you got to like write this all down in your planner? How's it work for you?
It's nearly impossible. It's difficult in the sense of a few different things because Tantric is a heavy road band. We play 100 to 200 shows a year, depending on the year, closer to 150 usually on the average. So this year, juggling, this year's been really the first year since I've been in the band that I've had to sub out any of the gigs. So I did a tour with the other band, the Life Project, this year, where I was going to be gone for an entire month. So I had a good friend of mine, Rick Reynolds, take over those duties with Tantric while I was gone, and he's helped me out over the years with some of my other bands growing up. And, it's hard because you got to pick and choose, but at this point in my career, I've been doing some of these bands for a while, and, when new opportunities arise, it's sometimes not only beneficial for myself, but for everybody, because, you put your foot in some other circles, you never know where that'll take you. Maybe Tantric will get an offer to go on a tour with, a band that I went on tour with another group, you never know. So, it is difficult, and also the juggling of the set lists is a little difficult, but, I feel like once you burn them in your brain, they're pretty easy to pick back up, later on. So, again, it's hard, but it's exciting, you're never really sick of one group of people because I'm kind of always juggling different stuff all the time. It's never really there too long to get old,
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about Tantric a little bit here. Yeah. You joined the band, I believe, back in 2017, and how did this all work out for you?
It was great, man. I got the opportunity after doing a tour with this band called Delacoma out of Australia. Singer's a buddy of mine and asked me to help him out with putting together a lineup for his tour, and it just so happened that the drummer, Troy Patrick Farrell, at the time was involved with Tantric. And when we got off that Delacoma tour, about a week after that, he called me and said, "Hey, man, I'm in trouble pretty much. I'm going on tour with Tantric, and we have no lineup. Would you be interested?" And I wasn't really too familiar with the band. I kind of recognized a song or two, but I didn't know well enough where it was, a no-brainer for me to say yes. So after I checked out the material, I kind of just thought to myself, this is my first big shot at playing with a national band on a larger level than anything I've been doing. And kind of just took a leap of faith, and we did a 6-week tour with about 48 hours notice to learn a headline set and leave and get out there. And it was crazy, man. And it's been going great ever since. We've been on the road nonstop, even through COVID. I think we were off like half of March, April, and then I think we were back out in June. So, and we did an album between all that time too, so we weren't really off. And it's been an endless tour, it feels like. But we have a lot of fun, and it is a lot of work, but it's taught me a lot, and it's led me to some of these great gigs that I have, as well as doing Tantric. So I'm very fortunate and happy with the way things have gone.
Oh, exciting.
Nice.
Very good. Mercury Retrograde was your first Tantric studio album.
Correct.
What can you tell us about the writing and recording process of that album? I guess this is going to be a two-part question because My Forever, my favorite song on that album, but it had a different name. It was Against My Forever when you released it as a single, and then it was changed to My Forever on the actual album. Can you just give us the whole story about that whole album?
Sure, yeah. Pretty much that came pretty quick because I had joined in 2017 right after that lineup before us had kind of crumbled. And it wasn't until 2018 in the spring where we kind of had a new lineup going. I had brought Sebastian into the band. Troy was still there. And, the label, I guess, that our singer Hugo had signed with, were kind of pushing him a little bit to get an album done because I had not known this beforehand, but he had already started what would become Mercury Retrograde with the lineup previous to ours.
Oh, okay.
And so My Forever, Tether, there's a few other ones on there that were kind of already done, and they were like, hey, you still need to do a whole nother half of an album and, finish up those other songs. So that's kind of what we did. A lot of it was kind of there already, but I was given, creative liberties to kind of go in and do what I wanted with the bass. And we got to actually pick a few other songs to go on there. Get 'Em All was one. Before You Could Crawl was one that we handpicked. And Yeah, it came out good, and we did it with Chuck Alkazian up at Pearl Sound Studios in Michigan. And it was a fun process, especially for my first, big record to do, with a national band. And I'm overall pretty happy with it. Hugo's a great songwriter, so I feel like, when he does an album, it's really hard to miss. It was just a different stylistic thing for me. I would say a big change in the way that I was used to playing music and writing. I come from more of a old school background, so to be doing modern rock was kind of a learning curve a little bit for me in terms of how I would play. And I think it all kind of blended together nicely and, laid the bed for what would become 4 more years of relentless touring.
Can you talk a little bit about the changing of the track name from Against My Forever to My Forever? How'd that all work?
That's actually the $1 million question. I have no idea. I don't even know why it was called Against My Forever. I think maybe someone just said it, and that's what was written down. I don't really know. But, I actually had forgotten about it until you brought it up. But, yeah, I was wondering that myself, ways back when we were doing that. But, it's definitely one of my favorite tracks from that record as well. And we've only played it, literally maybe 2 or 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Which is criminal because, it's a great song and the fans really, really love it. And I guess the only side to that is Hugo's got to bring out the piano to play it, and loading that in the trailer every night became a task and a hassle, and no one wanted to do it, and it kind of just phased out.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Understandable.
Right. Well, I think I saw you guys on that tour, 2018. You guys came to our hometown, Moline, Illinois, Rascals Live.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that event or not, but
I do.
See, but Rascals Live still lives on.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
I guess when you're Tantric, like you said, being the road band that they are, the constant touring band, do you, when you're doing so much touring, do you feel as though that it becomes more of a grind than it becomes, I guess, maybe less enjoyable? How does it work for you?
It doesn't become less enjoyable as far as the touring aspect goes. I love playing every night. I love being on the road. I love driving. I love going different places and getting cool food and whatever, and playing different clubs. I like it all. I like changing the set list every night. That's something that keeps it fresh and, keeps us all on our toes. The things that become a grind aren't necessarily the band. It's more individuals and things that they do maybe that might either get on your nerves or, you gotta, postpone the show a few hours because somebody's running late, whatever it might be, those things can become a grind, but, I feel like those are more real life, everyday things like babysitting or, someone's got to be the ringleader, the band mom. So I find, those things could be a grind and can be and have been, but, it's all part of the job and that's what it takes to live, quote unquote, the dream. If someone offered you, everything you ever wanted to do and said, all you got to do is take care of a couple of these guys and make sure they get to bed and, they're fed or, it's like, okay, no brainer, easy.
Yeah.
But, also you learn a lot, doing these things and grinding and, being thrown into crisis mode when someone misses a flight and this and that, it's all stuff that prepares you for, just about anything that could possibly happen on tour. So, I feel, I don't want to say bulletproof, but I feel pretty primed when it comes to these other gigs that I do because they're usually a breeze in comparison to most of the stuff that I'm used to dealing with. So, it's helped shape who I've become and the roles that I can, manage and do while I'm out on the road.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, do you work in sightseeing on when you're on tour, or are you guys strictly business and just got to get show to show?
I would say 50-50. I really like sightseeing, and I also really love sleeping in. So depending on how long the drives are, if we have time, we definitely Mount Rushmore, wherever, you name it. I have to go see it, and I will get up early and go see stuff like that. But I'm usually the guy driving. Burning at both ends. So it's like, I need the rest when I can get it, but I'm also a night owl. So, the downside to that is can't see a lot in the dark. So
Yeah.
in my prime hours, sitting in the hotel room late at night, I'm not seeing a lot.
Absolutely. Well, let's kind of move on to the Life Project. Josh Rand,
Sure.
Stone Sour, yourself, Cassandra Carson. Can you talk a little bit about the creation of the Life Project and how did it all come your way?
Sure. So when I guess Stone Sour went on their hiatus, 2018, I think that kicked off. I guess Josh had been compiling, over the years, but more so during that time off, different styles of music. Every track was kind of a different thing, a different feel. And my drummer from Heaven's Edge, Dave Rath, he's a big industry executive, in the record world. And pretty much, I guess, Stone Sour, was involved with Roadrunner Records. Dave worked at Roadrunner, and Dave had reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you think Cassandra, who is also my girlfriend, Cassandra Carson, do you think she would be interested in maybe, demoing out some songs for one of my clients?" And I'm thinking, yeah, sure, it's a good opportunity. And I'm also thinking Dave works for Roadrunner, it's got to be something good. It's great for somebody that's trying to, one, make a name for themselves, and two, branch out, And when the material came through, I saw that it was, from Josh. I was like, yeah, you should definitely invest some time into this and check it out. And so that's kind of how it was born. Dave put it together, and Josh and Cassandra did 4 or 5 songs as far as the EP goes, but they actually had done a lot more. There's a bunch of songs that are unreleased that they had done, different styles and stuff. And they kind of just did it as a little project to kind of test the waters. And then as the year went by, it was like, okay, maybe we need to take this thing on the road. And, they just readied a little bit more material with a little covers EP and some other originals. And then, after spending time with Cassandra up at Josh's house, just simply as a guest, just tagging along, I hit it off with Josh, and he asked if I wanted to be a part of it. So kind of signed on for that. And, it's always some craziness going on. So I'm in a race car here. But yeah, man, so it kind of just came together that way. And that was earlier this year. We did one show in April to kind of test the waters and kind of warm ourselves up for what would become the rest of the year. And once August hit, we did run with Alice in Chains, Breaking Benjamin, and Bush.
Nice.
And that was a massive, massive tour, especially for a brand new band. And we had Diana Weizard join on. She's a Des Moines local there that Josh joined on keyboards and backing vocals. And then I brought in an old friend of mine, Danny Pacelli, on drums, who I've played with in the past. And it's a great group of people, and they're all after one thing, and that's to play music and to do it right and to do good business. And I'm very happy to be involved and very lucky to, be sharing the stage with somebody like Josh and Cassandra. They're great musicians and absolute powerhouses, and as is the rest of the band. So again, I find myself in a very lucky situation.
Oh, yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
As far as 2023 goes, as far as Life Project, new music, you guys getting in the studio, making a new album, new EP. What's in the works? New singles? What's going on?
Yeah, we just released a new single called, man, why am I drawing a blank on it? Oh, man. Well, either way, there's a new single. So we're going into the studio the first week of December, and Dying of the Light is a single. We got this other song, something the darkest days. It's like all these dark things happening, Dying of the Light. But so anyways, we're going to the studio the first week of December to work on a new EP, and it's exciting because we're doing it to tape, which a lot of bands don't do these days. A lot of it's digital, so we'll be doing guitar, bass, and drums to tape, and maybe even vocals and keyboards as well, depending on how much of it we get done. But I can say that the material is getting more honed in on a specific style. When the band first formed, it was kind of like, there's like a little pop piano ballad on there. There's some heavy stuff. There were some, mid-tempo rockers. Now it's more evolved and it's become a heavy thing. And I think it's very unique because a lot of these bands you hear today, you know, that the heavy bands, they all have screamers or growlers singing on them, or one or the other. You know, they got a singer and then there's growling in one part. You know, it's never just one singer all the way through. And, you know, especially with some of these heavier girl bands, you know, you got like Arch Enemy, killer band, you know, but it's brutality the whole way through. So I think the niche for a band like, you know, the Life Project is very unique because you have Cassandra who sings like a total powerhouse, but clean and melodic the whole way through over this heavy music. And I can't honestly say there's a ton of bands out there right now that are doing that, let alone a female-fronted band. You know, so I think Josh and Cassandra are really onto something special, and, you know, as we all are as a band. But, you know, I really leave it up to them because they're the driving force and stylistically the ones who kind of, you know, make it all what it is. And I'm really excited to see how this new material comes out, and everything that they send me and all the different ideas that they're sharing are just, you know, outdoing one after the other. So I think everyone's going to love what the band's cooking up.
Oh, we're so excited.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have any more questions?
You guys are on Nuclear Blast, is that correct?
Yeah, so the band's kind of like self-labeled, kind of like Nuclear Blast helps with some distribution. Blood Blast in Europe, I believe, is who the band runs through. And, you know, we have a great management team over at 5B and, you know, a lot of different moving parts, you know, and that's the beauty of working with professionals and guys like Josh that, you know, have a very long career and a successful career working with great people and great teams of others that want to see him, and not only him, but his bands, you know, succeed. So that's a crucial part of what we do. And I'm very lucky to be a part of that because I'm used to being the guy to drive the whole ship and to front the bill and make sure everything gets done on time. So, you know, showing up and just playing bass sometimes is shock to me because I'm not used to it. But yeah, it's a great band, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Oh, yeah, me too. So exciting. Well, I asked this question to all of our guests. The mystery of rock and roll seems like it's gone these days with the dawning of the internet and social media. You are a younger musician, and you played with some acts such as Lynch Mob that had some mystery to them back in the day when George first left Dokken. In this case, you know, what is your preference as a fan and a musician? Do you like the accessibility that the internet has given us towards artists like yourself? Because if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this with you tonight. But on the flip side, we've kind of lost that mystery. You know, where's your mind at when it comes to mystery versus accessibility?
I would say I'm half and half. I grew up, you know, worshiping the old school guys, Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple. I mean, he's like the most mysterious guy in music. You know, everybody feared him because they didn't know much about him. He's that guy. And guys like Yngwie, you know, he had a reputation that was just ridiculous, and it's just like part of his character. And I think nowadays it's like everyone wants to live stream. You know, they're making pancakes because they're getting ready to go to practice for tour, and they're going to tell you about all the songs that they're playing on their big-ass tour. And it's like, I don't really want to know all these things because, like, I want to go to the concert and be kind of surprised. You know, I don't want to see somebody in their house in their pajamas wearing their glasses without all their gear on. If it's like some guy that's smashing guitars in dark smoke, you know, in all the pictures, it's kind of strange to see. But I would like more of the mystique to come back, but I do like being able to go online and see photos. I like to see tour dates. You know, I want to be, you know, up to date with what's happening. But when I say photos, you know, I like looking back. I like seeing stuff historical, whether it's shows or studio stuff. I don't need to see what's happening today. But, you know, if I see pictures of George Lynch back in the day, you know, with some crazy cool guitar that no one's ever seen, like, yeah, that stuff's cool to me. And the internet gives you access to that, where back in the day you might have needed to dig for a magazine or a book somewhere that you don't even know really exists, you know. So it's a double-edged sword, I think. And I do like the mystique, and I need to work harder on doing more of that, you know, personally. But I kind of do that to the most of my or to the best of my ability at the moment. You gotta stay current. You gotta put content out there. Social media is a must. But I'm the last guy that's putting, hey, I'm jamming in my room for a couple hours, just whatever. I kind of just treat it as a site where people can go if they're a fan of me or anything that I'm involved with. If they're looking for content, they can go there and look it up. Kind of like you look up. People want to know about Jimi Hendrix. They research the hell out of him. It's like you go to all these websites to get the info. I like that, but I don't need to know what Jimi Hendrix, great niece, is doing. Or now it's like I kind of just like to have that stuff available, but to an extent where it's not overdoing it.
Oh, very good. Well, we're out of our allotted time for this evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
You guys did a great job at covering the bases. Next year, sounds like new music from just about all these things that I'm involved with. Lots of tour dates. Maybe some different bands and some new stuff, some new endeavors. I don't know. I never really know what to expect. I kind of just work 1 or 2 weeks at a time. I see the dates in the distance, but a lot of things could change by then, so we'll see.
Oh, very good. Well, this is how things are going to work out. We're about 2 weeks behind on our episodes, so Jeff, the editing wizard over here, will get everything cleaned up, and we'll send the link to you immediately as soon as it's ready to go. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for the willingness to participate. Thank you for the correspondence, and I'll be back in touch with you about 2 weeks. Sound good?
Sounds great, Eric, and thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you guys taking the time to dig up the questions and do the research, and hopefully hear from you guys again.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Yep, see you.
they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.